There is something deeply hilarious happening right now in royal media circles. One simple article from Casually stated that Prince Archie and Princess Lilibet are thriving in California. And suddenly, the internet's professional Meghan complainers began malfunctioning like old fax machines dropped into bathwater. The article was not dramatic, it was not scandalous, it did not accuse anyone of anything, it simply acknowledged reality. The Sussex children are happy, loved, protected, and flourishing in the United States, thousands of miles away from the royal institution. And somehow that tiny bit of honesty sent the Derangers into absolute orbit. Because let us be honest here. For years, certain corners of the UK media built an entire business model around predicting doom for Prince Harry and Meghan, Duchess of Sussex. Every single move they made was supposedly going to fail. Leaving royal duties? Failure. Moving to California? Failure. Starting businesses? Failure. Raising children privately? Failure. Existing while breathing Californian air? Apparently, also failure. These people have spent half a decade practically praying for emotional collapse so they could scream, "We told you so!" across breakfast television while clutching coffee mugs like national heroes defending the crown jewels from organic vegetables and therapy. And yet, here we are. Archie and Lilibet are thriving. Not surviving. Thriving. That word clearly hit some people like holy water on a demon in a low-budget horror movie. The article painted a picture that many people already suspected. Harry and Meghan have intentionally created a peaceful environment for their children, a normal life, a safe life, a life centered around emotional well-being instead of royal performance. And suddenly, the same people who spent years mocking California wellness culture are furious because the children appear healthy and happy. Humanity truly is a baffling species. You invent indoor plumbing and satellites only to spend your afternoons angry that two children are playing peacefully in Montecito. Just a family being a family. And you can tell this drives certain royal commentators insane because the image contradicts the narrative they spent years selling. They wanted Harry miserable. They wanted Meghan isolated. They wanted the marriage to collapse. They wanted California to humble them. Instead, Harry looks lighter. Meghan looks peaceful. Their children look secure. Meanwhile, some tabloid columnists are aging in dog years, trying to explain why happiness in America is somehow a constitutional threat to Britain. One thing people rarely talk about enough is how deeply intentional Harry's parenting appears to be. This is a man who has openly discussed trauma, media intrusion, grief, and the emotional coldness surrounding royal life. He knows what it feels like to grow up under relentless public scrutiny. He knows what it feels like to have photographers chasing his mother. He knows what it feels like to be treated like a public commodity instead of a child. So when people act confused why Harry fiercely protects Archie and Lilibet, I genuinely wonder whether critical thinking has left the building entirely. Of course he protects them. Of course he prioritizes privacy. Of course he wants them far away from the machine that hurt him. That is not weakness. That is parenting. And honestly, the UK media sometimes reveals more than they intend. Notice how offended some people become whenever there is evidence that Harry's life outside the monarchy is stable. It is almost as though his peace disrupts an entire ecosystem built on the assumption that nobody can survive outside royal control. But Harry did survive. More importantly, he evolved. And Meghan? Meghan continues to be one of the most fascinating people in modern media because the amount of projection placed onto this woman is almost scientific at this point. People who have never met her speak about her like she personally unplugged the national grid. A woman can post a birthday photo of her child, and suddenly there are 20 panel discussions analyzing body language, flower arrangements, and whether the sunlight looked strategic. Strategic sunlight. Humans are exhausted. The Thriving article also quietly exposed another uncomfortable truth. Distance from the monarchy may actually be beneficial for this family emotionally. That is the part nobody wants to say too loudly because it shakes the fantasy that royal proximity automatically equals happiness. Sometimes distance is healthy. Sometimes leaving is healthy. Sometimes peace looks like 5,000 miles between you and the people who constantly undermine you. And honestly, Harry choosing his wife and children over royal dysfunction should not be controversial. It should be normal. Yet because this is the monarchy, basic family loyalty gets treated like revolutionary behavior. There is also something very revealing about how critics respond to Archie and Lilibet specifically. On one hand, they complain the children are hidden. On the other hand, every time a photo appears, those same people zoom in like FBI analysts studying classified documents. Suddenly, they are experts on gardening, shadows, child posture, and whether a 5-year-old resembles a Windsor cousin from 1987. Please, rest. The obsession is not normal. Harry and Meghan have actually struck a balance that many celebrity parents struggle to achieve. They share glimpses without fully exposing their children to public consumption. The kids are not being paraded constantly for headlines, yet people still receive occasional heartfelt moments. That is called boundaries, a concept deeply unfamiliar to sections of the tabloid industry who think privacy is a hate crime when celebrities request it. And let us discuss the media panic around royal titles for a second, because it always circles back eventually. Some commentators act personally offended that Archie and Lilibet hold prince and princess titles while living in America. Why? Are titles powered by geography now? Will Buckingham Palace explode if a child with a title eats avocado toast in California? The children did not ask for titles. The children also did not ask to become subjects of endless media fixation before elementary school. Yet somehow, people direct frustration toward Harry and Meghan instead of questioning why society feels entitled to constant access to royal children in the first place. Another thing the Hello article unintentionally highlighted is how much public perception has changed over time. A few years ago, any positive coverage about Harry and Meghan would trigger instant outrage from the usual suspects. But now, more mainstream outlets are openly acknowledging that the Sussexes appear genuinely content in their current life. That shift matters, because despite all the noise, people have eyes. People can see that Harry smiles more now. People can see that Meghan looks more relaxed. People can see that their children appear happy. No amount of angry opinion columns can erase visible reality. And let me tell you something else that probably irritates the royal commentators. Harry and Meghan's decision to prioritize emotional wellness resonates with younger generations. A lot of people today understand boundaries, therapy, mental health, and breaking toxic cycles in ways previous generations often dismissed. So when Harry says he wanted to stop genetic pain, many people understood exactly what he meant. Not because families are perfect, not because parents are villains, but because unhealthy patterns exist in many institutions, including powerful families wrapped in gold curtains and centuries of tradition. The royal system often demands emotional suppression disguised as dignity. Smile for cameras, ignore public attacks, never explain, never complain, maintain appearances at all costs. Harry clearly decided that was not the life he wanted for his children. And honestly, good for him, because children deserve warmth more than symbolism. They deserve presence more than protocol. They deserve parents who are emotionally available instead of institutionally obedient. What fascinates me most is how critics accidentally reveal their own worldview. They genuinely cannot comprehend why someone would leave royal status for peace, because they are obsessed with hierarchy, prestige, and public validation. In their minds, proximity to the crown should outweigh emotional well-being every single time. But Harry chose differently. He chose his wife, he chose his children, he chose distance. And the more his family appears stable, the angrier some people become because it disproves the entire fairy tale that royal life is automatically the highest form of existence. Sometimes freedom looks better. Sometimes ordinary moments matter more than palace balconies. Sometimes a quiet garden in California contains more love than the grandest institution on earth. That is the uncomfortable truth lurking underneath these reactions. And can we discuss how absurd the Deranger meltdowns have become lately? One harmless article about children thriving somehow turned into online conspiracy theories, outrage threads, and dramatic declarations about monarchy destruction. Over what? A family photo? Imagine explaining this to someone from the 1400s. Yes, my lord, civilization has advanced greatly. We have artificial intelligence, electric vehicles, and robotic surgery. However, thousands remain emotionally devastated by a duchess making jam and raising emotionally secure children. Incredible species. The funniest thing is that Harry and Meghan are not even trying to compete with the monarchy anymore. That is what confuses people. They stepped away. They built their own life. They focus on projects they care about, their family, philanthropy, media ventures, and personal well-being. But the tabloids cannot move on because outrage about the Sussexes became profitable. Entire careers now depend on monitoring Meghan's facial expressions, like ancient scholars decoding prophecy scrolls. And every positive article feels like betrayal to them, especially when it comes from established publications. Because, hello, acknowledging the children are thriving completely destroys the fantasy that California has been some terrible mistake. If anything, the opposite appears true. Archie and Lilibet are growing up with nature, privacy, affection, and cultural freedom. They are not trapped inside a system obsessed with hierarchy from birth. They are not being forced into rigid public roles before understanding themselves as individuals. That matters a lot. And honestly, the children deserve this peace after the sheer insanity surrounding their parents. People forget how vicious things became. The racist undertones, the relentless attacks, the manufactured outrage cycles, the constant dehumanization. Harry watched all of that unfold while remembering what happened to his mother. Why would he willingly expose his children to the same environment? That question answers itself. One of the saddest things about royal discourse is how often children become symbolic objects instead of human beings. Archie and Lilibet are discussed like extensions of royal politics, rather than little kids who deserve safety and joy. But Harry and Meghan consistently seem determined to protect their humanity first. Not royal relevance, not media approval. Humanity. And perhaps that is why these family photos resonate so strongly with supporters. They feel real, not polished into lifeless perfection. Real. Harry carrying his son, Meghan leaning toward her daughter, a family existing without performance. No palace briefing required, no sources close to the king needed, just love. Which, ironically, may be the most radical thing of all in royal culture. There's also a layer of projection happening from some UK commentators who seem deeply uncomfortable with the idea that America offered Harry and Meghan something Britain did not: breathing room. Not perfection. Through constant proximity. Sometimes stepping away allows people to rebuild themselves. Harry appears to have rebuilt himself as a father first, not a prince first. That distinction matters enormously. And honestly, even people who are not royal watchers can recognize the emotional difference. Harry today often seems calmer, more grounded, more intentional. Fatherhood clearly transformed him. You can see it. You can hear it. And that probably bothers critics who expected bitterness and collapse instead of growth. There's a reason positive stories about Harry and Meghan create such dramatic reactions online. The outrage is not really about them anymore. It is about narrative ownership. Certain media figures built identities around mocking, criticizing, and predicting failure for the Sussexes. So, when reality contradicts those predictions repeatedly, frustration builds. Because if Harry and Meghan are genuinely happy, then what exactly was all the hysteria for? If the children are thriving, then perhaps leaving was not reckless after all. If distance created peace, then maybe the institution was part of the problem. Those are uncomfortable questions, questions some people desperately avoid by screaming about Netflix deals and jam jars. Meanwhile, the Sussex children continue growing up under California sunshine instead of constant palace tension, and perhaps that is the biggest plot twist of all. Not revenge, not scandal, not royal warfare, just healing, quietly, steadily, 5,000 miles away. Thank you for watching, family, and happy Mother's Day to all wonderful mothers. I love you all, and I will see you in the next video.